Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Aldo Cycling YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be taking a look at the VELOGAMES Dwars Door Vlaanderen. This is the last cobbled race before the Tour of Flanders at the weekend, which hopefully I'll be able to make a video for. I'm going on holiday on Friday, so hopefully once the race is done, the Flanders will immediately open. I can do a video for that. Fingers crossed. But anyway, let's talk about Dwars Door. So we've got Wout here, no Van der Poel. And he's obviously resting up, ready for the big weekend. Wout, on the other hand, obviously was probably a little bit disappointed with E3, finishing third place there. Obviously had that fall. I think that this Melissa bike, there are a lot of teams in this race who will want this to be quite an attacking style race, and you generally have teams which will want it to be an attacking race, like a Viz Melissa bike, or you might have a team which is wanting it to be a sprint, like Alpes into Koenig, for example. So I like Wout for this race. I think that given that E3 was a little bit disappointing, I reckon that he would probably quite like to get a win ahead of Flanders, have a really good hit out. It's a shorter race, I think that suits him a little bit more, and I think he fulfills a lot of scenarios where if he gets up the road, he can go solo, he can win from a small little group. He could, if a Visma bike rider gets up the road and he's in the group behind for a bunch sprint, then he could probably do quite well there as well. So he covers all eventualities really well. So I do like Wout for this race. Maybe you could not go with him and make a little bit more of an interesting team, but that's up to you to take that risk. Pedersen, again, I like Pedersen for this race. After all, I didn't take him for Gent-Wevelgem. I talked myself out of it, and I don't know. I'm not sure about him for this race, just because of he did, E3, and then he had a few days rest, and then he did Gent-Wevelgem, and now he's had like another 2 days rest, and he's going to be doing Dwars Door. Then he's going to have 3 days, and he's going to be doing Flanders. And is a dude who's got a serious chance of doing well on Sunday going to want to go full gas? Is that going to make him too tired? I don't know. It's just it's just pure skepticism, pure deliberation going on. I think that he is a good contender for this race. Lidl Trek have been very strong, and therefore Pedersen should be doing very well in this race. But getting him and Wout, and if you wanted Philipsen in there as well, that's really limiting your team. Speaking of which, Philipsen, when he finished 4th place in this race last year, there is usually the scenario for Dwars Door is that somebody goes solo or a small group goes solo, and then there's a big sprint behind. So I think that Philipsen fulfills that bracket of waiting for the bunch sprint and getting that position, which I think is a pretty safe place to be going, and putting your credits, because it probably means that Philipsen's going to be getting a decent finishing position, but it just depends how many riders get up the road ahead of him for how well he's going to do, because I don't really, maybe he gets into the moves and starts kind of tussling it up with, guys like Pedersen or, I don't know, Jorgensen and stuff in those kind of other groups, but I don't know. I see Philipsen's role being more of like the waiting and pouncing at the last second sort of type. Then you got a lot of riders who I probably wouldn't pick, like Hershey. Alaphilippe, maybe. He's been okay recently, like Milana Sanremo, he was 9th. So I think that Alaphilippe's not bad, but there are just far better choices. Binny's kind of like in the Philipsen camp, where he's going to be waiting for a sprint. And yeah, honestly, he's been looking decent as well recently. He was, almost made it at E3, was looking decent at Gent-Wevelgem. So therefore, I think that Binny's on the upward curve, and I think he's quite suited for this race. Jorgensen, it depends how you think Visma Lisa Bike are going to play this. I presume they're going to try and get him and Wout, because obviously we don't have Laporte, very sadly. Him, Wout, Benoit, Tratnik into a group, and then somebody's going to try solo it off the front and win. And, I just think that's more likely to be Wout that they're playing for rather than somebody else. And if somebody goes up the road, they're going to more de facto work for Wout to try and, bring it all back together than, say, Jorgensen, for example. But Jorgensen's in that little niche where if he does go up the road solo, like Laporte did last year, like he's going to be very hard to bring back. But maybe there are safer options, maybe somebody like Matthews, again, just waiting for somebody to be in the sprint behind, but climbs quite well, so maybe he could be in that second group, which could be fighting it out for the kind of minor placings as well. I think that maybe I would favour going with I might favour going with Matthews over Jorgensen just because of that sprinting element in there. 20 credit riders, of course, loads of sprinters here who will be trying to fight it out in that group behind, like Demar, Christoph, Mayus, a big surprise at Gent-Wevelgem. Maybe he could do the same again. And that's it for the sprinters, but then you've got Kung, Stuyven, Tratnik and Wellens as your attacking options. Stuyven, of course, I believe he would have been in that front group at Gent-Wevelgem, but he got a puncture at the wrong time. So I think that Stuyven's looking really good. And if Pedersen is, feeling generous, or, he's like, I want to kind of not burn myself completely for Flanders, Stuyven's definitely a really good option for them. They've got plenty of other guys as well. So Stuyven I do like for making the moves. I think that he's going to be quite influential. Tratnik as well. It depends how, like I said, how Vismali's bike, he was, like how they play it. Because he was wasted in E3, just bringing back a move. But if they get him on more on the front foot, he's going to be great. Kung will just ever be present. Like, he's always a decent pick. Maybe he'll do good this time, maybe he won't. Like, it's a little bit of a 50-50. And then Wellens, he was, what was he? He was 4th at E3. He's never really gone well in this race, though, funnily enough. When I looked at his statistics, which is a bit of an odd one, but he should be doing good for E3. He should be doing good for this race alongside his teammate Pollitt. I think that both of these are solid choices. There's a lot of reason, there's a lot of reason to be picking, all of these kind of semi-attacking options like Kung, Stuyven, Tratnik. It just really depends on the day who gets the nod, who gets the green light, who plays, their attack in the right place. It's just a little bit of a lottery in that sense. You get towards some cheaper riders like Bettiol, who of course crashed out of E3, so obviously he's probably feeling pretty fresh because he hasn't really raced in a little bit, but he was very good at San Remo, very good. Obviously he won Milano Torino, so I like Bettiol for this race. This is a race which really favours the solo attacker, and Bettiol is definitely that. So I think that Bettiol's good. I think Lazcano finished second in this race last year. He's very similar to Bettiol. I think that these two are, the Hail Mary, pin your ears back and just try go solo sort of riders. And I think that those two, fortune favours the brave in this race, it seems to be. Nelson will probably get like a top 15. Schoins will be instrumental in Lidl Trek's design of this race. Pedersen, they've also got Stuyven, Schoins, Milan. I just don't know how they're going to play it. They've got so many options. Schoins, I think maybe he'd favour a harder race. I think that, a lot of the difficulty in this race is done with perhaps 40 or 30 kilometres to go, mainly. So I think Schoins maybe would favour a harder race like Flanders, for example. Van Hestel for, the sprint behind. Van Poppel for the sprint behind as well. All these guys will get beaten by Philipsen, but they'll get some decent points anyway. Milan and Piffy, great shouts. I see Milan really being the insurance policy for Lidl Trek, and I see this being a bit like the Gent-Wevelgem style again, where maybe somebody in Lidl Trek gets on the podium, and then Milan's fighting it out for the minor placings in a sprint. So I think that he gets the best of both worlds there. I see that really being his role, but he was in the moves in Gent-Wevelgem, so he's quite versatile too. Piffy was sadly dropped at Gent-Wevelgem. He was on my team, and I was hoping that he'd hang on up the Kemmelberg, but he didn't. That was a real shame. But yeah, Piffy's really good. He's not doing Flanders, so this is his last kind of cobbled race. He can do it in a sprint. He could do it from a small group. So I think that Piffy's a good one to be going with as well. Both of these guys providing some better value in the 14 credits. Rex has been looking pretty strong, but he will be working for Binny, but he seemed to pick up just some top 20s around the place, which is really cool to see. Ben Turner was very animating in Gent-Wevelgem. Possibly he could do the same here. I don't see anybody else on Ineos who's really going to be doing much. Maybe Magnus Sheffield might do something, but they don't have Navarez. So I think that Turner's going to be the one they're looking towards. Fred Wright, I believe, is leading, barring Victorious, because they don't have Mohoric here. Walscheid might sprint, because... Oh no, but there's also Matthews. But maybe Walscheid sprints behind or something like that. That's certainly possible. And 12 credit riders... Mazzato is a bit of a sprinter. Campenarts has done well in this race before. But yeah, Mazzato and other sprinters are generally the safer ones to be going with here. Like Vernon, I think, is a really good shout too. I think he should be sprinting for Israel, and I reckon he could certainly get a top 10. maybe Viviani, but I would be more quickly gravitating towards Vernon, to be honest with you. 10 credit riders, Case Ball, another sprinter you could be going with to try and pick up those minor placings. Crest Naylands was, I can't remember exactly, but he was in the top 20 of E3, so I'll see him doing something similar in this race as well. Casper Van Uden will be the sprinter for DSM. Pasqualon will be the sprinter for Bahrain, I presume. He finished top 10 in this race last year as well. So both of those are decent choices as well. And then you've got the 8 credits, maybe Allegard as a sprinter. Jano Berkmos has been in good form. He was in the Coppa e Bartoli and he was looking very strong there. So maybe he could do something in this race. Nils Akoff, if Van Uden's dropped, I guess he might be the sprinter for DSM Firmenich. Johan Jacobs will probably get him a breakaway. That seems to be where he loves to reside. Gleb as a sprinter, you could go with as well. Visma Lisa Bike guys for some expensive assist points. Then you got the 6 credit riders. Boivin finished 9th or 8th in this race last year, so maybe you could go with him. Bittner might actually be the other sprinter for DSM who you could go with, but maybe he won't. I don't know. Canal, considering that they only really have Lascano, he is fastish in a sprint, so he might pick up a top 25 at best. Fretin is a good sprinter, so again, you could go with him. Gotalat is probably your safer option, considering there's no Sam Bennett here. I think that Gotalat is really good. He was very strong during the Tour de la Provence. He was very good at these hardy sprints, so I think that Gotalat's a really good 6 credit rider for you to be going with. Jean-Hier could be the sprinter for Total Energies, so long as he makes it over the climbs. I don't really know how good his climbing is, but he is a strong sprinter. He was top 10 at Bruges de Pass, so therefore he should be doing quite well in this race as well. And then other guys for breakaways like Norsgaard, you've got Kelland O'Brien as well, could get into the break. Jonas Luch could get into the break, and Steimler will probably get in the breakaway as well. So I think that that's quite good, especially considering it's a shorter race. They hit 50% distance almost, and 50 kilometers to go sooner, if you see what I mean. So the break has a better chance of making it to the finish. So I think Steimler is actually a decent shout for this race. And then 4 credit riders you're really looking at dudes getting assist points or into the break. So Herzog is a good one. He was in the break the other day and might get assist points on Mayus or Van Poppel finishing on the podium. I just clicked off it. Oh well. Yeah, then you got Luis Jolers and Philippe Majcek as well for other Bora picks. Rally pick rule if you think that Ethan Vernon's going to finish on the podium. Rajovic is a sprinter for Bahrain, but I doubt that he'll really be making this. The EF boys, if you think that Bettiol is going to be winning, you could go with him. Albert Torres or Morrow, if you think that Lascano might be doing something. And yeah, maybe Wisniewski again, if you think Fred Wright might do something. I would probably go with, just go with guys who you think might get in the breakaway. Just play a little bit of a breakaway bingo, because maybe you'll get lucky. This is the team which I'm going with, because I've been rambling on for so long. Wout, Stuyven, Lascano, Milan, Piffy, Herzog. I like it because it gives me 5 options to finish, very strongly. Although I must admit, I did have a team where it was Pedersen and Philipsen in there as well that you could kind of toy around with. And also I'm thinking of maybe not going with Lascano, but going with another 16 credit rider. More than likely Bettiol, but Schoens could certainly sneak a look in there as well. I just need to try and find if Bettiol's actually feeling good or not, how he's doing after that crash, what happened and stuff like that. So this is kind of like the other team that I'm going with, but it leaves me without any Visma Lease bike riders, which gives me the heebie-jeebies, because I think they're going to do something in this race. And Stuyven, I think, he gives me that other option for Lidl Trek, but I could go with maybe Vellens instead if I wanted to kind of cover more teams. But that's what I'm thinking. But let me know what you're thinking in the comments section down below in terms of, are you going with Wout? What do you think about Pedersen? Is he going to go full gas for this race? I presume he will do, but, I'll be interested to hear what you guys all have to say in the comment section down below. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Salut!